Hey, listen, being a sales manager is a lonely road. Think about this. You got a sales team. Maybe you got like 3 to 5 salespeople. There are 3 to 5 of them against just you. You need a sounding board, right? You need some help. You need some guidance. You need some coaching. And sometimes you don't have that, and it can become frustrating or irritating. What we recommend is that you find a mastermind or a group of people to connect with. And on this episode, we're going to be your mastermind, your group of people you can connect with, because we're bringing on a guest named Mr. Charles Bernard. Now, Charles has worked with sales teams and sales leaders all over the world. And today he's going to talk about a few of the challenges, just a few common challenges that sales managers face and how we can go about solving them. You're going to love it. This episode is brought to you in part by mailtag.io. Essentially, it's a tool that allows you to see around the corner. Want to know when someone opens your email? Or perhaps, maybe there's a link to your proposal. Want to know when they click on it? Mailtag.io gotcha. Take advantage of a 14-day free trial. Simply go to mailtag.io. This episode is also brought to you in part by TSE Certified Sales Training Program. If you feel that your sales are in a slump, 2018 wasn't the best year. Perhaps you gave some amazing presentations. You did a lot of hard work, but still yet they left you and went with the competition. We can fix that. Check out TSE Certified Sales Training Program. We have a new semester beginning in April, and it would be an absolute honor to have you join. Go to thesalesevangelist.com/C as in certified, S as in sales, T as in training. Thesalesevangelist.com/CST. Hey, everyone. Welcome to another great episode of the Sales Evangelist Podcast. I'm your host, Donald Kelly, the Sales Evangelist, and I'm so excited for another great episode. I'm so excited to be here with you today. And on this episode, we have Mr. Charles Bernard. Charles is a keynote speaker, an author, an entrepreneur, and currently he consults organizations all over the world, helps sales managers, individual sales reps just like you and me to improve on our skills. And today's episode, he's going to deliver exactly what we talked about in a teaser. He's going to talk about some of the common challenges that sales leaders are facing and how we can overcome and solve those problems. Now, I don't want to take up too much of the time because Charles has some great ideas and we're going to dive straight into it. Welcome to the show, Charles.
Hey, nice to be here.
Man, it's nice to have you. I'm looking forward to talking with you today, especially as we talk about sales leaders, because we know, you and I both know as sales leaders, we get a lot of problems, a lot of issues. And today we want to highlight several of the most common problems that sales managers are experiencing. But before we hit up on all the good stuff, Charles, why don't you tell us a little bit more about you and what you do?
Yeah, sure. I founded a company called Criteria for Success in 2004. And what we are about is improving sales, and we do that in the form of developing online sales playbooks, leadership training, which includes the topic we're talking about now, sales management training, and also helping salespeople break through any barriers they have that are impeding them in the realm of performance. And I used to be a top performer in General Electric in my division, so I feel like I have a little bit of background that qualifies me for this. I've also run a few businesses and managed sales and done quite a bit in that area. But I was a data processing guy to begin with. So you might laugh and think, well, what does a guy who used to design systems have to do with selling? And I've found more and more that a discipline, a system for selling and managing really does help.
I think there's a couple of things that you mentioned that I gravitate towards is one, I think a data processor or backtrack. If I could have more of if I could have had more of a technical skills going into my role when I sold a lot of technology stuff, hands over fist, I would have done that. I would have done it. But because I think you bring a unique aspect to it that makes it so different. You're not just a sales rep. You understand the back end side. You understand the tech side. You understand processes. And that makes you like a double-edged sword. So kudos to you on that. That explains why you're who you are.
Thank you.
Well, let's highlight some of those problems, Charles. Sales managers, they're hit with a bunch of different problems, all kinds of issues all the time. But what are some of the issues? Let's talk about the top 3 issues you have seen, that common issues that sales managers are experiencing these days.
I'd say there's a bunch, and I would say the number one is being caught in the middle. I've always felt personally that's been a big issue for me. And also just something I've heard a lot of the people we've worked with. And what I mean by that is you're in the middle as a sales manager because the people above you, typically the CEO, the owner, someone who's in senior management, is looking to you to bring in the numbers. And the people below you are looking at you as sometimes a pest, micromanager. So I like to give the analogy that you got two targets, one in the front and one in the back, and you have to serve two masters. And that's probably number one.
Okay.
And then I think number two is staying focused, because it's easy when you're a sales manager to get pulled into a lot of different meetings and a lot of different initiatives, especially internally. Like, I see a lot of companies are having these endless meetings. You've probably seen them yourself, where people are walking around with their laptops. They're just running from meeting to meeting. And the manager is either not in the field or just not spending enough time with their salespeople. And then I think not able to create realistic forecasts is another issue. Like, I think people in management have to really spend time vetting the forecasts, making sure forecasts are being set, goals are being set that meet those forecasts. So being stuck in the middle, staying focused, and not making good judgment calls on forecasting are probably the top. I mean, I can keep going, but...
Let's tackle those. Let's start with the first one, caught in the middle. Why is this one why does this become, you kind of talked about it a little bit, but let's go deeper. Why does this become a dangerous problem or a challenge for sales managers?
Well, I'll tell you one thing, that I'm going to approach the answer to this question a little differently. So what I find a lot of poor sales management is about is you get pressure from above and you don't act as a filter and you just pass it straight through. And sales reps hate managers that basically take pressure from their bosses. Mm-hmm. And rather than, put that in a context, when the boss says, where are the numbers? Your people are underperforming, something wrong. They're not doing their job. The sales VP or the sales manager takes all that energy that just came straight at them and passes it down the line to their salespeople without really providing any level of context for the boss. And sometimes it's justified and sometimes it isn't. And I think that's where someone who, because they're in the middle, if they're not really balancing this push-pull type of thing between the boss and the sales team, they're really not doing a great job. I think it's better for that person to take all that pressure and adapt it in a way that the message doesn't get lost, but gets translated so that it's empowering to the team. Does that make sense? I know I just said a lot, but I want to.
No, it does. It makes sense. And I'll give you an example. We had this, I remember I went into a Monday morning meeting, right? And I worked for a small company. The CEO, this was like Monday, not motivation. He got reamed on Friday, I guess, from the board. So then he came into the Monday morning meeting and his motivation, you want to know what this was, Charles? Yeah. It was, if you guys don't do increased sales, you're going to get fired.
Right.
What do you think we did? Like no one. I mean, I was like geeked up on my motivational stuff coming into work, but quickly it was like pop that balloon, deflated as I'm getting ready to go in the trenches and make all these calls anyways, because it cut my feet off. I understand you got pressure from above, but that's never going to work to motivate or incentivize your team below. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like you're a parent, and sometimes as a parent, you're not going to give all the problems to your kids. You're going to help them understand in an adult way that there's certain restraints or certain challenges, but you're not going to say, hey, if you don't clean up the house, you're going to get kicked out and live on the street. Like, you don't want to traumatize a kid like that.
Right. Or worse, I've heard sales VPs say, if you don't perform, I'm going to get fired. Some people are like, well, good luck with that.
I know, like that. Yeah, I care so much about you and the 6 figures you're getting that I'm going to go out and work all day just to make sure you don't get fired. Thanks, boss. Yeah. No, but yeah, it's an interesting position as a sales manager, but you need to be, I think you need to be thoughtful on what you say and how you execute that. You need to balance motivating your team, but not brewing, I guess, people who are not willing to work. I think there's effective ways that you can motivate and give your team goals and excitement to take care of that. Have you seen any companies that have done that well with the organizations you've worked with that a manager that was able to understand how to balance the in-between phase?
Yeah, we do a leadership training course in this area, and it's really baked into what we're learning, and it does change, Donald, but I'll tell you that leadership's a funny thing and management's a funny thing. I think, again, I like to go kind of giving you an answer of what the bad thing to do is and then maybe contrast it with the right thing. Does that help? I hope this helps.
Yeah, I love it.
So it's like leaders, I find, and sales managers, because they are leaders, a lot of the time they fall into this trap of, I have to have the answers for you. And when I get the answer and what I want you to do and how I want you to do it, then I'm going to tell you, kind of a thing. And I think one way to get out of this being squeezed in the middle is that we're in this together. Yeah. And an enlightened manager can mix and actually pull in their boss or their bosses, sometimes it's more than one, with their team, and really encourage the communication to be very transparent so that it's not like there's a separate conversation happening on one end and a different conversation happening with my sales team on the other end. That as much as I can, I like the team to hear from the bosses directly. I like to facilitate meetings. I like to encourage people to invite others to their sales meetings. So imagine a VP of sales is doing like a weekly staff meeting with their salespeople. You could go two ways. You could be very protective and insular and just have the VP with their sales team, or encourage that VP of sales, that sales manager, to bring in their supervisor, to bring in marketing, their peer in marketing and operations, and hear firsthand what's going on with the team. Let them hear what some of the concerns on the sales team are, and vice versa. And in that way, we're in this together. We're a team. We're kind of figuring this stuff out. And we can certainly talk about where we're underperforming if that's the case, but not like blaming each other and pointing fingers, because that tends to happen a lot if you remain stuck in the middle. So I think that's one answer I'd give you.
Hey, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, Charles is going to pick up with problem number 2, and we're going to talk about staying focused. You're listening to the Sales Evangelist podcast, and I'm your host, Donald Kelly, the Sales Evangelist. You meet this amazing prospect on LinkedIn. They're the right size firm, the right income, the right number of employees. They're right within your Goldilocks zone. They have a problem, and you can solve that problem with your software. You schedule an initial appointment. You send out an email to them and to a couple of their team members. You also send out some information about your firm, but you don't know if they're opening your emails or not. You don't know if they're clicking through and going to the web pages that you recommended. It's a Chrome browser extension that allows you to get notification when someone opens your email or clicks on a link. The coolest part is that you can schedule your emails for later. Mailtag.io has a free 14-day trial, so you don't have to take my word for it. You can go and test it out. And when you do fall in love with it, go ahead and use promo code Donald at checkout and get half off your subscription for life. Shh, don't go telling nobody about that now. Half off your subscription for life just because you're listening to the TSE podcast. To find out more information, again, go to mailtag.io. But let's continue the story. The prospect then goes ahead and clicks on all of your links. They go back to your website. They're doing their initial research. They want to schedule the next meeting. You go through the process. You create a demonstration. I mean, an amazing demonstration. You gave it everything you had, your emotion, your heart, your feelings. You gave epic value. But still yet, when it's all said and done, they said, thank you so much, Donald. Unfortunately, we are going with another vendor. We appreciate all that you did. Thank you. Devastated. I know that feeling. I've been there. You've been there. And it's horrible. But we can fix that. We fix that by helping you with TSE Certified Sales Training Program. We would love for you to check out our upcoming semester to learn how we can help you not only find the right customers, not only say the right things and help your clients get all the way to the demonstration, but actually what you should be doing to help them convert to come towards your product or your service. To find out more information, go to thesalesevangelist.com/CST. Again, thesalesevangelist.com/C for certified, S for sales, T for training. We have a new semester coming up in April, and I would love to have you join us. Let's help you to close more deals. Hey, we're back. And as we dive into the second half of this episode, pay attention to problem number 2 and how you can stay focused, whether you're a sales manager or you're a sales rep. Let's go into talking about problem number 2, staying in focus. Well,
Yeah.
let's dissect that. Why is that such a big issue? I know it sounds like it's a quite obvious, but how does that affect a sales team or a company's performance?
Because I think more and more what I'm seeing is sales teams are being managed remotely in many cases, so they're not all in the sales office. And I think that compounds the problem of staying focused. But even if they are all in the same office, I think one lesson I learned, I'll tell you, when I was a sales manager, I got all the scars on my back to prove how I had to struggle and learn this myself, that one thing you got to be very diligent about is saying no to people who are not really driving sales or not impacting sales, but they're placing demands on your time. For example, marketing, operations, again, your manager, clients. Like I can't tell you how many times I've been asked by someone else, a peer in my company or my boss, to get involved in firefighting with a client. Like the client's yelling and screaming. They're not getting what they need. They need you to step in. We need your help. Your team sold this. You're good at this. We need you. But I have to push back hard unless it's a real critical emergency and say, there are other people in the organization better equipped to be able to handle this. So learning to say no was one big part. But the other thing that, and I hate to say this, but I'm going to say it anyway, because I think this is where a lot of sales managers get stuck, is they want to prove their worth to the company they work for, to the organization.
Yeah.
And so one way to do that is let me get involved in firefighting. Let me sell because my sales team's underperforming. So I'm going to be the one that's the hero and come in and close deals. And I'm going to go out there and carry a bag. And let me then get involved in some of the strategic conversations about where we're going. And let me work with marketing. And the problem with that is I feel if you're not focused and you're all over the place, then you're taking cycles away from your team. Your team starts to notice you're like an absentee manager. And I think that's a big problem. I think your first priority is to be available to your team, that they need you first. That makes sense.
No, it does make total sense. And here's a reason to it. Like, a bird in a hand is better than 2 in a bush, right?
Absolutely.
So if we are constantly running back, trying to, put out fires, trying to do things that are not going to progress our deals forward or progress business forward on the hopes that, hey, something might come of it later, that's a bad way of doing business, straight up. I don't care how you skin the cat. That's not going to work. And right. I feel that too often I have found myself in situations like that where I'm doing non-sales related activities and I feel busy, but in the end, it doesn't look any profitable because it didn't increase any of my money. It didn't increase or grow the business. All right. Now we're hitting on some amazing things here. The third principle, the third point, let's talk about that for a second. Why is this so important? The number 3, we probably could add like 10 more to the list, but we're going to keep these 3 because I know some sales managers out there like, so true.
Yeah,
so true.
Right.
Well, let's tackle the third one there.
Yeah. And they're probably going, so true. Tell me something I don't already know. And so it's not that we don't know that having realistic forecasting is obvious. The problem I have is that there is a lot of dimensionality to forecasting. Like, at a basic level, forecasting it's November and close to the end of the year. We're a calendar year, so our calendar starts January 1. And November, October, we're forecasting what's happening next year. And the problem with that is we're making decisions on that forecast, deciding where the growth's coming from, how much we're going to grow, what our profit's going to be, and where we're going to take some of those dollars and reinvest them into the business. And as a business grows, typically you're going to hire people, you're going to increase the number of salespeople on your team. So there's a lot of critical decisions and budgeting getting done based on your forecast. And a lot of what I see is a sales VP will lock themselves into their office or do it at home and kind of come up with a whole bunch of spreadsheets and numbers. And then they ask their team to vet the numbers or give them a number, each individual salesperson, and they're rolling all that up. And it seems like a very kind of linear, rigid process. And there isn't a lot of thought behind it. So what I typically think people need to be aware of is number one principle in forecasting is don't think about what you're going to sell in a year, because that's what I normally see. People tend to miss things like backlog, and backlog is probably that's what's going to give you the wind behind your sails. But what I mean by that is so if I'm in 2018 forecasting for 2019, I need to see at an individual sales level and certainly as a team, what's our unclosed business? Like where are all the deals that didn't close and what stages are they in that didn't close in 18 going into 19? Because that's my backlog and that's going to give me a jump on getting my Q1 set. And there's a phrase on Wall Street that says, as January goes, the rest of the year goes. And that's been around for a long time. And I think in business, it's true. If you go in with a strong backlog of unclosed business and you put that into your forecast and you can then see where you're short, what you need to do, then you can keep that logic flowing for the rest of the year. And so now you're doing it Q by Q. So quarter one, what's my backlog going in? What's my backlog coming out? And as I've been saying, what's my backlog coming into the year? I want to forecast what's my backlog coming out of the year. So if I'm a $10 million business, let's say for argument's sake, and I'm going into my 2019 calendar with $2 million in a solid pipeline, mostly bottom of the funnel, which is great, close to closing, then I'm going to close all that $2 million. I'm going to book and close another 8. Plus, I want another 2 for growth because my growth number is 12 million because we did 10 last year. Yeah. So that's got to get all recognized in 2019. And what am I coming out with to set me up for growth for 20? Because people will go, I made my number. Whew, I got the number for 2019. But what have you set yourself up for 2020? Because if you don't set yourself up, 2020 is going to be a tank. And that's why it's really important to have this notion of forecasting that includes backlog. That's just a very essential kind of 101. There's tons of other things, but I think to your question, Donald, that one, if you don't factor that in, you're already behind the 8 ball. I hope that makes sense.
No, it does. You're going to start from way behind.
Yeah.
I love this, man. If there's one major piece of advice, though, that you would like the sales manager who was listening to this to walk away with today, to give him some hope, what's that one major piece of advice?
I got 3 things for you. Can I give you 3?
Let's do it.
Okay. 1, rank your sales team. In other words, who are your A pluses, who are your A's, who are your B's, and who are your C's? They're not all the same. Number 2, rank your clients or your customers. They're not all the same. So who are your partners? Who are your advocates? Who are the ones that see value? Who are not loyal, just buy on a whim transactionally, and rank them. And then lastly, build a playbook. Build something that takes all the knowledge that's in your company and sucks it out of people's heads and makes it available in the form of an online knowledge management system that anyone can access. Because a lot of the time we see sales managers are asked the same questions over and over again. And boy, it would be nice if someone says, you know what, that's in the playbook. All you got to do is go there and find it out.
That's awesome, man. Well, if folks out there want to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to go about doing so if they want to learn with you?
I'll give you a couple of pieces of contact. Thank you for asking. So one is my email is the best way. That's cbernard, CBERNARD, @criteriaforsuccess.com. It's all spelled out. So it's not a number. It's FOR, criteria, FOR, success.com. And they can call me. My direct line is 212-302-5518. That's the best way. Shoot me an email, find me on LinkedIn, or give me a buzz.
Done. Well, Charles, we truly appreciate your time today coming on the show and for the wealth of knowledge you shared with us. And I know you got tons of information. So guys, I'm encouraging you to go back to the show notes, really connect with Charles and learn from him. Thanks again. I truly appreciate the time.
Thanks, Donald. It's my pleasure.
Told you the stuff was going to be good today. If you would like to connect with Charles, want to learn more about his expertise, want to test out some of the amazing content that he's delivering, go ahead and go back to the show notes, thesalesevangelist.com/the-word episode number 1051. Again, thesalesevangelist.com/the-word episode number 1051. Learn more about Charles, connect with him on social media. Also, go ahead and just send the brother an email. Let him know that you heard him on a podcast. He would be totally Totally excited to hear that. While you're back on the show notes, be sure to check out mailtag.io. Again, mailtag.io. They have a 14-day free trial to test out the software. And if you fall in love with it, or should I say when you do, go ahead and use promo code Donald at checkout, and they'll give you 50% off your subscription for life just because you're a member of the TSE community. Can't beat that. Again, all the details back in the show notes, thesalesevangelist.com/Stewart, episode number 1051. I share this stuff with you because I want to help you. I want you to find more ideal customers. I want you to build stronger value. I want you to close more deals. But most importantly, I want to challenge your way of thinking to go out each and every single day and do big things. Hey, I hope you enjoyed the show today as much as I did. And if so, I ask that you go ahead and leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Spotify, or wherever you listen to fine podcasts. It would be greatly appreciated. And if you haven't done so, just go ahead and hit subscribe. Show your friends, your colleagues, your neighbor, your boss how they can subscribe as well. I would love it. Our show today was produced by myself and the Sales Podcast Network. It was edited and mixed together by the one and only Mr. Jersh Nobel. Our content writer and show note creator is Mr. Shannon Rasmussen. You can find audio credits to this and all of our episodes in the show notes. And as always, I am your host, your coach, your mentor, your guide down the sales journey, Mr. Donald C. Kelly, the Sales Evangelist. Sales Podcast Network.